Alright, welcome back everyone to another week for the WPF Psycho Boost Division. This is week number 7, and we are taking on Carmine for this week. He is an undefeated coach, the only undefeated coach in the entire division. He's 6-0. We are currently 4-2, sitting at, I believe, 4th place. And I believe there are 3 or 4 other people who are 4-2 as well. So we're all fighting for kind of just like to take a lead in that playoff push. I think at this point in time, 2 wins will definitely guarantee us 2 more wins out of the last 3 games will definitely guarantee us a playoff spot. If we get 1 more win, it could come down to differential. I think 5-4 should make it. But you never know. I think the way the current standings are right now, it might be a negative player might make it in, so they might be safe on that regard. But regardless, I want to win these last 3 games of the season, go into the playoffs 7-2, whatever seed that may be, whatever. But first thing we got to do is take on the undefeated coach. No one has been able to best him so far this season, so I'm hoping I can be the first one. So you can see his team on the screen on the right. His Zamazenta Crowned, Spectrier, Tinglu, Zapdos, Hatterene, Vaporeon, Serena, Terra, Espathra, and Dragalge. So originally he actually had Rotom Heat over Dragalge, and I was actually not looking forward to playing that because I think Zapdos plus Rotom Heat with no ground type becomes very, very oppressive, and it puts a lot of pressure on things like Hands, Dragonite, even Screamtail or like Regieleki. Regieleki would have had to fight through Tinglu and Rotom Heat, which would have kind of forced my hand with certain Terra types, but luckily enough, he actually dropped it for Dragalge, and I think he was getting kind of... He almost lost the T-Spikes, I think, the previous week, so he just made the change and got a Grounded Poison. So that's why Dragalge's there, but... yeah, so the main threats that I see on the screen are obviously Terra Espathra, I think, is the #1 threat. That thing can spiral very quickly, and I'm going to have to play in a certain way to kind of dissuade it from sweeping me. Obviously, there are certain sets that, like variety of sets it can bring, with obviously like Calm Mind Stored Power. It can bring Lumina Crash to try to break through Skeledirge that way, since I am unaware. He also has to find a way to break through Screamtail. I could like T-Wave him, Encore, whatnot. Skeledirge gets Roar. Obviously, if he runs like a defensive set with the Calm Mind Roost, then it's going to be really tough to break him. So I'll have to find ways to kind of just force him out, and then possibly get up my hazards to kind of put on pressure that way. But yeah, so the next thing I look at is the next kind of big threats are the Spectrier. I don't really have a great Spectrier answer. I mean, I can go Braviary, but Braviary, he can just plot and just like nasty plot. He can Wisp, do that, and then he can sorry, not plot and nasty plot, plot and Draining Kiss along with Will-O-Wisp and Shadow Ball or Hex or whatever he wants on that set. That could be very annoying to break, and my only real way to kind of revenge it would be like a Scarf Samurai or like a Scarf Ape, which can't even hit him that hard until I take a hit. And then obviously Regieleki, obviously he has kind of good pivots into Regieleki with Tinglu, Serena in its own right, Dragalge as well, so or even like a bulky Zamazenta. So I'll have to find a way to kind of keep up pressure, force certain things from not spiraling, like Spectre and Espathra from sweeping me. Zama, I think I have pretty reliable Zama checks between like Annihilate, Hands, Dirge, and Dragonite. And then the other threat mainly is the Zapdos. I think Zapdos, obviously with no ground type, I have to be wary of Volt Switch, but I'm kind of fine with things Volt Switching versus my team. I don't really mind it too much as long as I don't get stuck into like a Vortex, a Volt Turn or something, but he doesn't really have that here. Obviously Dragalge doesn't get like Flip Turn or anything, so and it's just Serena and Vape with Baton Pass, so I'm not too concerned about like a Vortexing there, but I do have to be wary of like an offensive Zapdos, like with Specs Hurricane or something. But yeah, let's hop right into the build. I'll kind of cover it briefly. It's pretty straightforward for what it is, but the main thing I wanted to build around first was Aleki, but I'll just kind of talk in order that it appears in the builder, because they were kind of the mons that first came to mind. So the first one I actually thought of was Revavroom, and mainly because of Dragalge. Dragalge was very difficult to switch into. I thought Rotom Heat was going to be annoying, but Dragalge's even more so. Its stab combo basically hits my entire team insanely hard. Obviously, you can Draco spam versus Dirge. It gets access to Haze to kind of work around that as well. Draco's really free into the rest of the team. You could Sludge Bomb Screamtail, and then Rev obviously takes a decent amount from Draco, but he can also carry something like Surf or Hydro Pump to hit me harder. So, and then I was also very afraid of Toxic Spikes, so I was forced to bring Revavroom here. But I think it's also pretty decent. Outside of like, you know, Tinglu and Zamazenta, it kind of hits everything pretty well with like Gunk Shot and Bulldoze. And Bulldoze is especially nice for like lowering the speed on certain mons like Spectrier, Zamazenta, Spathra are some of the common ones. And there's a good chance he could bring like a Terraferia Spathra, so Revavroom, if I keep him out of range of like being able to store powered spam, Rev could probably try and just revenge it as well. And you'll see kind of with the rest of the team, but yeah, I brought Gunk Shot, Bulldoze, Shift Gear, and then Parting Shot, and then it's just basically almost max Spadef, kind of just to avoid like a 2-shot from, to avoid a 2-shot from Dragalge. I think Specs Dragalge or Dragon Fang, one of the two. But then Parting Shot is decent because I can kind of just Parting Shot. If I really need to, I can also Shift Gear and just like start attacking in a late game. But with Zama and Ting around, I can just Parting Shot out, and then versus Ting, I can get in something like I believe Hands or Samurai or whatever. And then versus Zama, likewise, I can get like Dirge or again Hands, for example. So that's mainly what Revavroom does. It's kind of just a pivot to Dragalge and kind of facilitates the rest of the team, while also being able to have a late game cleaner if we get chip on Zamazenta and Tinglu, which I feel like we should be able to do pretty reliably with the structure of our team. So next one, we have Skeledirge. No boots this time. He doesn't have a... I mean, he has just one hazard setter, really. That's just Tinglu. Dragalge can Toxic Spikes, obviously, but I can Absorb, so it's just rocks and like spikes, but I have a lead set hopefully around Tinglu, so we'll see if that comes into play. But we have Covert Cloak, mainly because I don't want to lose to Lumina Crash and then like Terra Dark or Terra Ghost. So I brought Covert Cloak for Lumina Crash, and obviously with Unaware I should be able to take on Stored Power, basically max defense, Spadef here. Torch Song, Shadow Ball, mainly because I want to be able to hit Spectrier, can also hit a Spathra if he's like Terra Water, also hits Vaporeon harder, so I just wanted the extra coverage. I mentioned that I had Roar before. I was going back between Roar and Yawn, but I ultimately decided to go with Yawn. I felt like Yawn put on a little bit more pressure here, while Roar was decent with hazard stacking. I feel like it didn't really solve the Espathra issue, and I feel like Espathra is probably going to be a late game mon, so I kind of wanted Yawn on it instead, because at least with Torch Song I can bypass his Calm Minds, and then I can start boosting myself up, and then I can Yawn him, put him to sleep, and kind of pressure him in another way with either Dirge or something else, and then obviously slack off for recovery. But yeah, that's mainly Dirge. Needed something for a Spathra, and then obviously Rev for Dragalge, and then the main thing I wanted to build around was Regieleki. So you see it's max attack, max special attack, Force Spadef, whatever, and then a attack boosting nature with a defense lowering nature, so Lonely Nature. I wanted to run mixed, and the reason is because I needed to hit not only the kind of like the Zamazenta or whatnot with Thunderbolt because of his boosting. I wanted to be special for that. I wanted Wild Charge so I can revenge things like Spectrier, Vaporeon if he was like Calm Mind or something, Calm Mind Hatterene. It was just good to be mixed here. And then Terra Blast, I actually wanted it to be physical. So while Terrablast Ice would probably be weaker into like a Fizdef Zapdos, I figured Ting-Lu would probably be Spadef. So I could run a physical Terrablast here. It would do more damage. It did more damage to the Dragalge. Versus Serena, it probably did less damage because it was probably going to be Fizdef for like Samurott if he did bring it. So I figured physical Terrablast Ice would be fine. Yeah, I forgot to mention we are Terra Ice. And then Thunderbolt Volt Switch. That's basically all I need. Just 3 stab moves, 3 very different scenarios. Like if I need to versus Spectrier, I can Volt Switch and then get some chip and revenge him afterwards. Unless he's like Scarf, then I'll have to scout that. But yeah, nothing really outspeeds this. I didn't need speed. Already outspeed Zamazenta and Spectrier at max speed. +1 Espathra if he's max speed can outspeed me, but I'm not really too concerned about that. So yeah, that's Regieleki. So the next mons are, so we'll move on to Samurott. So this is my main kind of pivot to Spectrier, but it can also take on a Espathra if need be, if it's like, I guess like a Terra Ghost, Terra Dark, or whatever. But regardless, it has Roselli Berry. It's to cover both Spectrier Draining Kiss as well as Espathra Dazzling Gleam, but mainly for Spectrier. We have Razor Shell, Ceaseless Edge, Sucker Punch, and Taunt. I originally actually had Swords Dance, but I dropped it for Sucker Punch. Well, I originally had Swords Dance with Taunt, yeah, and then I dropped it for Sucker Punch, mainly because I was scared of like a Scarf Spectrier, so I wanted some way to kind of force it out or revenge it if need be. And as much as I wanted Swords Dance to kind of put on more pressure versus like Serena if it already took damage, or Vaporeon, or even like a setup Espathra, for example, I figured I would be mainly taunting like Vape and Espathra, so I figured it was fine to just run Taunt and I could just Ceaseless Edge spam at the very least here, and I could set up more hazards. So I figured that was probably going to net me more residual chip in the long run. But yeah, we ran enough speed for, I believe, max speed Serena, so we can outspeed it. And then I threw the rest in Spadef and some attack investment just for like Spectrier. If he was like Colbur Berry, I can use like Ceaseless Edge into Sucker, or I can just hit him with Sucker hard enough. And then obviously Razor Shell if I need to hit Ting-Lu a little bit harder, or like kind of lower the defense. Like if I needed to go for like a neutral hit, I could like Razor Shell, lower defense, and then kind of work off of that. But yeah, that's mainly Samurott. I believe max special attack Modest Shadow Ball from Spectrier doesn't 2-shot Samurott after Rocks, so that's mainly what the Spadef calc is for, and then the rest was an attack. So yeah, then now let's move to the penultimate mon, and this is the big set. I wasn't too sure what to run on Dragonite here. I knew I wanted it Spadef to kind of switch into Zapdos, kind of switch into Spectrier in a way as well. It could also semi-check a Espathra. But yeah, ultimately I landed on this set. So we have 248 HP, 84 defense, 104 special attack, and 72 Spadef. So this Spadef investment is enough to not get 2-shot by Specs Modest, Shadow Ball from Spectrier, as well as Specs Modest Hurricane from Zapdos. It's pretty big. I wanted to be able to take those hits so I can, like through scale, so like they do less than 33% the first hit. So they don't net to 100. Obviously we got Roost on here, and obviously we have a weird combo of moves. We have Ice Beam, Fire Spin, and Encore. So I went with Ice Beam similarly because of why I brought Terra Ice Regieleki. It was the most spammable move that kind of hit the most things like Serena, Zapdos, Ting-Lu, Dragalge, and like it hit everything else neutrally bar like Vape and Zama, but then I would have Fire Spin. Fire Spin was actually really good at kind of trapping things down and wearing them down residually, and it kind of forced things to either switch or I can kind of gain momentum through Encore. So I kind of used Fire Spin and Encore in tandem, so I can like Fire Spin things like Zapdos, it forces it to switch, or if it tries to Roost or whatever. Vape, if it tried to do some like wishing or whatever, I can Encore and I trap it that way as well. A Espathra, for example, if it tried to come in, I can Fire Spin, or I can lock into Encore, or just use Encore in general, just to kind of check certain things from being able to do a lot. Obviously, Zama I can get chipped that way because I figured he might just use it as like a pivot to Dragonite at times. So a Fire Spin chip was just going to add up, which is kind of what I wanted Zama to take, was this chip. So Regieleki can revenge it. But yeah, I believe I ran enough defense. So I believe like a Stone Edge from Zamazenta, or no, I think a Stone Edge from Ting Lu doesn't like decimate me. And then I think the special attack was just leftovers, but I believe I should be able to two-shot a max HP Zapdos. I should be able to two-shot Serena. Not too strong versus Dragalge. I didn't want to run Ice Spinner just because I didn't want to get paralyzed with Zapdos or have him be some like random poison point Dragalge or something and like Rocky Helmet Serena. So, but yeah, this is my lead, and I actually plan on it to potentially lead versus Ting Lu. And in hopes, I will click Fire Spin, trap it, it'll start taking residual, and he clicks either Spikes or Rocks. If he clicks Spikes, I'll just have to deal with it. But ideally, he clicks Rocks, because then I can Encore him into Rocks, and that's all he's going to set up hazard-wise. Obviously, that's worse for Dirge, but if lock him into Spikes, he's going to be taking more damage anyways, and actually hurts Revavroom and like Samurott more, so I'm hoping he clicks Rocks first, which he might because of Dirge and stuff. But yeah, if I Encore him, I can just start Ice Beam spamming, wear him down, remove Ting Lu or weaken it to the point that Regieleki just becomes an immediate threat all game, because he has no check, unless he's like Terra Ground to spot throw. So, and again, that's something we have to watch out for, and then even then, we have a physical Terra Blast if he has Calm Mind. But yeah, last one, this is my Zamazenta check. That's all it is. Just a max defense basically with some HP, some Spadef, and then some speed for Ting Lu, as well as for Dragalge. Drain Punch, Ice Punch, Low Kick, Swords Dance. I originally was going to run Whirlwind, but I didn't know exactly what the Zama would be, and I actually didn't like Whirlwinding certain things in and then being pressured out. I'd rather them just have to hard switch and take the Hazard Chip, and they'll take whatever damage that I deal with them. But if he has like Iron Defense Zama, they could become pretty scary, but again, I could always Encore, I could Fire Spin. Dirge kind of beats that, I can just Torch Song or Yawn. And so I figured I can just run Swords Dance, Drain Punch, it does a lot. I could take on Serena with this. I'm running Ice Punch so I can hit Zapdos harder, as well as Dragalge. And if he's like an offensive Zapdos, then Ice Punch can actually two-shot him. So he can't really pivot into it that easily. And then I brought Low Kick just so I hit something harder like Ting Lu or Zama if I needed to muscle through it rather than clicking Drain Punch. And that's mainly why I have Low Kick. It's so I didn't have to run close combat and take drops. I can hit Zama and Ting Lu pretty hard, and then I can Drain Punch all the other things that I need to Drain Punch. But yeah, that's basically the team. And yeah, so we're going to lead Dragonite, and we'll see what happens. Alright, we pulled up the replay here. As you can see, again, my team is on the backside that you can see facing you. But our opponent, they ended up bringing Spectrier, Ting Lu, Vaporeon, Zapdos, Serena, and Espathra. So they benched Zamazenta Crowned, Dragalge, and I believe Hatterene. So I did not expect Vaporeon to come, mainly because I have Hands and Regieleki, but he probably is figuring that Dirge and like Dragon are going to be muscling the defensive unit, so it's kind of a good counter bring to what typically is my defensive structure for some threats. But he didn't bring Zama, which means that Hands not really particularly useful. I can kind of use it to pressure Ting Lu if he doesn't lead with it or something. I can Ice Punch the Zapdos. I can take a Specs Hurricane, which is why I have that Spadef investment. If I need to like potentially two-shot him or something, or Swords Dance into Ice Punch. But I'll probably mainly be using it as my pivot to Serena, as well as Revavroom as my pivot to Serena. But yeah, and it could probably pressure Vaporeon as well, if need be. But there was also no Dragalge, which means, again, Rev probably doesn't have to do a whole lot. It's obviously Spadef, so I can probably use it to take a hit from things like Serena or like a Espathra if it's not too boosted, especially if he's Terra Fairy. So we'll just have to scout it with Dirge mainly. And then, yeah, no Zama kind of just alleviates pressure off of my team, really, for the most part. So I'm just going to lead Dragonite here. That was what my plan was, and we're going to see what he leads with. I think it would be Tinglu, because I feel like Hazards is something he wants to get up, knowing that I might try to get up Hazards, but if he expects me to lead with, I don't know, I didn't bring a Rocker, so I mainly just have Spikes. I didn't bring my Annihilate or my Screamtail, so I can't set up rocks here, but I figured Spikes was far better anyways, like versus this team, than Stealth Rocks. So yeah, he might just lead Tinglu. Expects me to like lead like Samurott or something, to lead like Serena. I'm kind of fine with that. It only gets Play Rough to hit Dragonite, and it's probably going to be more defensive if anything, so I could probably just Ice Beam him and do that, or Fire Spin or whatever. But he could also lead Zapdos as well, since I had no ground. Just get a free Volt Switch, free Hurricane, or kind of like force the Regieleki to reveal a type, and then kind of just pivot around that. So I'm just going to lead Dragonite. I figured it kind of just handles everything but like Vaporeon. So start it up here, we lead Dragonite, and he ends up leading Tinglu, just like we thought. And so I end up going for Fire Spin here, just trapping it, and he does go for Rock. So that's best case scenario for us. No Spikes here, which means Rev's going to take less chip, Samurott's going to take less chip, but we Encore him. And now he's locked into Stealth Rocks. He's going to take Residual Chip. I'm not just going to put this at normal speed, since we're going to see a fair amount of stalling in this game. So we're just going to be clicking Ice Beam here, wear him down slowly. We get a big crit there. That was actually kind of big here. As you can see, he's actually in range of another Ice Beam now. And if it weren't for that crit, he would be at like 31% or something. And his Encore would have ended the turn after, but I don't know if he still would have been trapped by Fire Spin. It might have ended as well. So he could have potentially actually saved the Tinglu at like roughly 16% or something, which means he would still have like a potential pivot to a Lecky if he needed to like get it on the Volt and then double out on like a Terra Blast or something, just to kind of get around it. But I figured he could have just saved as a sack, but the crit kind of saves that for us. As Encore ends, we just go for Encore again. I didn't want to risk it potentially being a roll with Ice Beam, because even though we did like 30%, we could have low rolled it. So I went for Encore again, just to be safe, have him lock into it. And as you can see, Fire Spin was actually still active, so this would have been the scenario, and it does confirm that he still would have been locked. So we were fine even without the crit, because he would have been at like 25% here, and he probably would have been at like 10%. Probably would have just sacked him at that point. But yeah, he brings in Zapdos here. At this point, Regieleki's kind of just free reign, unless he's like Terra Ground to Spothra, but like Volt Switch is super free. Terra Blasting things are going to be super free. Wild Charge is free. So, I mean, removing Tinglu kind of has just opened up a Lecky all game. And I kind of want to scout what the Zapdos is going to do. He could click Volt Switch or Hurricane or whatnot. I want to scout what he locks himself into, if he is like a spec set or if he's just offensive. So I actually go for Roost just to kind of see what he goes for. But he goes for Volt Switch, and believe it or not, that is choice specs damage. That 18% Volt Switch was choice specs. But we heal it off, and then he brings in his Spectre here. So I considered switching to Samurott, but I didn't know if he would click like Will-O-Wisp or something. So I actually just go for a Fire Spin here, because I want residual chip on this. So if we do the Fire Spin plus the Fire Spin chip, we can actually put it in range of a Wild Charge for a Lecky, so we don't even need Spikes there at that point. And even like then, I get the Fire Spin chip, I can Roost the turn after, and then I can go into Samurott. And that damage shows me that this thing is also choice specs Spectre, and he did 24%. So I think he actually low rolled that based off my set. So he could actually do over 50% this hit, which means I can't really Roost stall him. And if he gets a Spadef drop, that's pretty bad. But again, if I get Fire Spin chip here, I can just chip it down and it'll be really good for us. But unfortunately, we miss. So I don't want to take any more chips, so I just go hard Samurott because I know he specs. We can live 2 after rocks, as you can see, with very little damage. And I just get a free Ceaseless Edge here. And he reveals to not be Rocky Helmet on his Serena, which is good for us. So I'm thinking he's probably Boots. Since we're Roselli Berry on Samurott. So I'm thinking he's Boots. I figured he might just spin or something to get rid of it. So I just go Rev here. I could have gone Hands, but I wanted to go Rev in the case he does spin, because then I can get a parting shot and kind of get momentum that way, rather than like have Hands sit on this. But he ends up going for U-turn. So the spikes are up, which is good for us, but he gets in a Spothra, and he reveals a leftover set. And I have no idea what he's going to be. He could be Terra Ground or something. I don't really want to take a Terra Ground hit with Skeletors. So if he wants to kill this, he can kill this. I don't really need this for anything. So I just go for Parting Shot here. I figured he might just set up, if anything, or go for like Lumina Crash, and we can just get out. But he goes for Calm Mind, so we got a Parting Shot off, and we actually lower his stats down a little bit, which is good for us. We lower that special attack, meaning his stored power would do very little. He has it. Obviously we take the hit here, but I want to force this out, so I just go for Yawn, and he reveals Terra Fairy as he goes for another Calm Mind as I go for Yawn here. So there's one of two plays I can go for here now. See how much the stored power does. I know how much it does, but I don't know how invested he is. But I can go for Torch Song here, or I can go for a Slack Off to see what he clicks. If he goes for Calm Mind here, Torch Song would be better, because then I have to kind of just pressure him, but it's kind of scary because I don't know when he's going to wake up from Yawn. So I kind of just go for Slack Off just to heal, just to ensure that I'm like at a higher HP range. But you'll see here, he actually goes for Stored Power, so that was actually good for us. He doesn't go for Calm Mind, and we get a nice Slack Off as he falls asleep. Now I can just start going for Torch Song. As I go for Torch Song here, and we see I do 39%. Because of the leftovers, I won't be able to two-shot him here. Shadow Ball won't kill him or anything. So now I'm a bit concerned. Do I risk him sleeping another turn? Because if he sleeps another turn here, I guarantee beat this thing. Or I can start spamming Yawn again, because if I go for Yawn, if he wakes up, he's going to have to take the Yawn hits, but he's going to start boosting speed. And if he Calm Minds again, stored power becomes like really strong, and I'm going to have to at some point just start slack offing. So the best play should be to Yawn here, I feel, just to wait for him to wake up. But I kind of just roll the dice and play for the second turn of sleep. And I actually get rewarded here. So I go for Torch Song. I get a higher roll. Obviously, I get a lot of damage off on him. But if he had woken up there and clicked Calm Mind, he could have just stored powered me the next turn. And probably kind of... Or no, he could have woken up here and just stored powered, potentially two-shot me. As you'll see here, he wakes up on this turn as he goes for stored power and does 45. But I didn't know his investment at all. And he could have Calm Minded that on that second turn for all I knew. But if he went for stored power, obviously I wouldn't have gotten two-shot here. As you can see, that did 45. Because if he had woken up the other turn, then he probably wouldn't have killed me. So it was actually fine to go for Torch Song, but I feel like Yawn also could have been a viable play. But I did get lucky with him not waking up that turn. But as you can see, that only did 45, so that means his hit before that would have been weaker. We would have been out of range of that stored power. But we would have been in range of rocks. But at this point, I don't really need this. If he specs Zapdos, he kills me. Vaporeon pressures me. I don't need this for Serena. I still have Hands and Revavroom. And Spectre is Spec. So I kind of just want to sack it. So he goes for Shadow Ball as I sack it, and Dirge goes down. He gets a Grimnay boost. So I can do one of two things. I can go into Samurott here and just click Sucker Punch to get Chip on him to put him into Alecki range. Or I can go Alecki and click Volt Switch and then go Samurott as a sack if he stays in. I figured that might be better because if I go Samurott here, he can just double out into Serena and it can spin. I won't get the chip damage because I need another Spike Chip or some form of chip on Spectre to put it in range of Wild Charge. So assuming I don't know what his bulk is or whatever. So I figured the best play was actually just Aleki, because if I went Samurai, he could like pivot around. It was like super annoying. Aleki kind of forces things to stay in. So I decided to go Aleki here. I go for Volt Switch, because I don't want to risk the Wild Charge and him killing me. So I just go Samurott and sack it, like I said I would do. And then I will bring in my Aleki here. And I will just click Thunderbolt, because no point going for Wild Charge. But yeah, I wasn't sure what he'd go into. I obviously didn't want a Terra yet, because I wanted it to be a surprise, like what type of Terra I was. But Power Whip potentially could just kill me, since I am a defense lowering nature. So Power Whip can just kill me. So I can't raw Terra Blast this. Vaporeon, if it came in, I would have just attacked it. And then Zapdos, I would have Volt Switch. So regardless, I'm Volt Switching here. I can't really risk getting damage on Serena in case I need to have health on it for like Vaporeon if he's like some, I don't know, weird Vaporeon set. So I just go for Volt, play it safe, and I will go into my hands now, because I figure he might click Rapid Spin, but if he does click U-Turn, I feel like at this point hands is just better than Rev in terms of like pressuring certain things, because if he goes Zapdos, I can live the Hurricane and I can just Ice Punch him, put him in range of Aleki, which is good for me. And I know Dragonite in a way can still kind of contain Zapdos or even the Serena, but if need be, I can sack Dragonite to Zapdos if I didn't want to stay in with hands or something. But yeah, he ends up going for Rapid Spin, as I expected, and he takes the Helmet Chip. And obviously you saw he was Boots, because he didn't take Spikes damage earlier, so that's the item I thought he would be. But yeah, obviously I can click Ice. I'm going to click Ice Punch here, hit Serena, covers Zapdos if he pivots in. He's not going Vaporeon, in my opinion. Even if he does, I can just SD and then pressure him that way. But I go for Ice Punch here, and he shows me he is just straight offensive Zapdos. So that's good for me. And yeah, I know I can live Hurricane. I don't need this anymore, because I still have Rev for Serena, and I still have Aleki and like Dragonite. So I just stay in. He goes for Hurricane, and we get confused, but luckily we break through and we take out the Zapdos, meaning at this point the only real threat left is the Vaporeon. I have no idea what it's going to do. So I just stand and go for Drain Punch as he goes for a Calm Mind here. Luckily we break through, and that reveals to me that he is just kind of a Fizz Death Vaporeon, but maybe not max HP, or not like fully defensive. I don't know. It wasn't like a fully defensive Vaporeon. So I wasn't too sure. Maybe he has some special attack investment or some speed. But yeah, he goes for Calm Mind, and then he reveals Muddy Water. So I'm not too sure what his set is, but obviously he has Muddy Water, Calm Mind. I figure he has Ice Beam for Dragonite, and then he could be like Wish as his last move. But since he is Calm Mind, Muddy Water, he actually could potentially kill Aleki. And I like, especially if I Wild Charge him. If I Wild Charge into that, it's going to be actually really annoying to kill. So what I wasn't too sure. And if I lost Aleki, it might have been tough versus Serena. I mean, I could have just went in, just clicked Wild Charge, and then gone Rev and just clicked Gunk Shot. But if I missed Gunk Shot, I lost the game. So I figured the safer option would be to just go Aleki here, click Volt Switch, kind of just to get the chip damage, and then go hard Dragonite. If he clicked, if he ended up clicking like Ice Beam raw, then I would just go Aleki afterwards, and then I win the game. But if he clicks like Muddy Water, I can actually Encore him, and he's stuck in the Muddy Water, and Dragonite should be able to kind of just wear him down with like Fire Spin and stuff. So that's what I do. I end up going into my Aleki here. I don't want to Wild Charge, but he reveals Protect. So now I'm not sure what his last move is. It's probably Ice Beam, but it could be Wish. But Mono Muddy Water is kind of weird into Dragonite and like Samurott, but I guess he's kind of banking off the RNG of like getting a like a accuracy drop. So I'm still gonna click Volt Switch here. He can click Wish if he wants, because then I can just Encore him into that, and then I can just use it. But he goes for Muddy Water here. That's great. Now I can Encore him. But I kind of want to see if he has Wish. So instead of encoring, I actually go for a fire spin because if he ice beams here, he kills me. But he's not healthy enough, and he's in range of wild charge, and I should win the game. If obviously I could probably just encore and do the same thing, but I want the residual chip so I can just start kind of pressuring him here. And if he does go for Wish, then I know that's all he has, and I can just encore him into that. So I go for Fire Spin, and I land it. No accuracy drops from him yet, but as you can see, we can start chipping him. But I go for Encore here, lock him in the Muddy Water. Obviously, he's not doing a whole lot. We'll slowly start chipping him down. And I go for Roost here, kind of just to heal off. And he actually misses a Muddy Water. And as you can see, the Fire Spin's still going. He's still encored. I wasn't sure what to do here, so I just went for another Roost just to heal back to full as he goes for a Muddy Water. And he's still Fire Spinned, and the Encore ends here. So I could just Encore him again, but I actually clicked Ice Beam here. Because the way I was looking at it was I don't really want him clicking Muddy Water the whole time, and it's actually going to be really tough for Dragonite to like be killed and stuff. At this point, I was trying to preserve Differential because Differential is kind of big. So I was trying to find a way if I can win with all 3 Lons left. And you'll see I click Ice Beam there as he clicks Muddy Water again. And he's still Fire Spin as I Encore him, but he gets an accuracy drop, so that's kind of annoying. As you can see, he takes this kind of chip damage here. So he is Encored, so I was just trying to land a Fire Spin at the very least. But I start missing Fire Spin here. He misses a Muddy Water, but he's starting to heal with leftovers, and I really don't want to work around that and like protect and stuff. And he's like kind of slowly killing me. So I go for Fire Spin here. I was clicking so fast because these sequences were happening so fast. I forgot to Encore him here, which is what I should have done. Because then he would have just killed Dragonite, and then I go Aleki, I click Wild Charge, and Terra Blast the Serena, and I win the game. But instead I missed Fire Spin. I didn't realize that he wasn't Encored. He gets a Wish off, so that is his last move. And now this thing is just back at full. And I have to find a way to chip it somehow. And I kind of messed up. So we're in this horrible position where now we might even lose the game. So I Encore him in the Wish, and I know I have to go Aleki here just so I can like Wild Charge or Thunderbolt into him, or whatever, because he is only +1. Put like Thunderbolt into like Wild Charge or something. But I didn't want to take that like chip damage, so I go hard Aleki just to like break the cycle. But he actually goes hard Serena, so I just take the kill with Terra Blast. And now it's just Vaporeon. And you would think it's as simple as clicking Thunderbolt twice and winning the game. So I click Thunderbolt here. I do 84%, but he goes for Muddy Water, and he gets an accuracy drop. So if I miss my move here and he takes out Aleki, I'm at the mercy of a Gunk Shot, and I really don't want to miss a Gunk Shot. Or he can click Wish here and then like heal up, and I'm forced to kind of just switch out again, and it's really annoying. So just to play it safe again, I go into Dragonite here because I want to Encore him, and I only have 2 Encores left. So I just Encore him in the Wish because I don't want him Calm Minding anymore. But yeah, I go for Fire Spin to kind of just start getting chip again. Obviously he's wishing, so it's kind of a mute point, but you'll see that he'll take some more chip, and then freed from the Encore, I Encore him again into Wish, and from here I can either go into Aleki, but since he's wishing up, I can't reliably like Thunderbolt Wild Charge because since I Encored him first, if I switch to Aleki, that uses 1 turn, and he'll just get the Wish. I believe he'll get the Wish back, yeah. And then no matter what, if I Thunderbolt again, he'll be able to get that Wish off and protect, and then I'm kind of just in a bad spot again. So I think I go hard Revivroom here instead to kind of put on pressure. As he goes for a Wish, it fails, obviously. He heals this, but if I went Aleki here, he would have been able to Wish again, protect, and then kind of just hit Aleki, and then again it would have just came down to like landing gunk shot, and I'm out of encore, so I figured I'd just go Rev. If I'm gonna miss the gunk shot, I'll just miss it here. But he's still locked into Wish here, so I just go for a shift gear. Obviously, it didn't look like he was max defense based off the drain punch damage, so this gunk shot might just two-shot him, and if I poison him, great. It's slowly going to chip him down, which is all I need, really. So, yeah, I just go for gunk shot. I do land, and I do get the poison as he goes for Calm Mind here. Gets the Wish off, and but at least the poison chip is going to be residual here. He goes for Protect. Doesn't really do much here. And at this point, if I miss or he gets an accuracy drop, then it's kind of bad for me. But yeah, he goes for Wish, and I believe I go for Bulldoze there, yeah, because it would kill. But I know like Gunk Shot is going to start pressuring him with all this toxic damage. He can't heal it all off. He goes for Muddy Water. Because I'm Spadef, I chew it up at +1, and he doesn't get an accuracy drop, so we can finally end the game with Revavroom. So yeah, not a clean end game. There were points where, like, with the Dirge versus a Spathra, it could have been scary, but obviously we got bailed out based off the damage, because I never calced it, so that was my fault. And then, if we just encored him and let Dragonite die, we could have just won with a Lecky in the end there, but I tried to make it so difficult on myself to try and preserve differential, so I could have nearly lost the game in doing so, so I'm definitely not going to do that in the future and preserve differential. But yeah, we take down Carmine, who was 6-0. He is now 6-1. We are now 5-2 at +8 differential with this 3-0 win. And based off the other results across the league, we are actually now the second place team in the entire league right now. So we moved up from 4th to 2nd. The 2nd place and the 3rd place team both lost this week. And the 5th place team, I believe, beat the 2nd place team. So they're in 4th, I believe, and then another person's in 3rd. So there's a good chance if we start winning out and Carmine loses another game, we could pass Carmine. And by winning out, we could end up becoming the #1 seed going into the playoffs, which could be pretty big. I pride myself on regular season records and accomplishments, but obviously playoffs are a different breed. But I very much enjoy using my draft right now. Since the free agents, I think this team is very complete, very much fits my style, and has a very good kind of natural bulk offensive structure. And I just love how like malleable a lot of these sets can be between like certain things being defensive or offensive. They're not kind of borderline passive, but they're not passive. But yeah, I very much enjoyed it. I believe Aleki is now 10 kills, 1 death, and Revavroom is 7 kills, 1 death. So these are our top kill leaders at the very moment. Aleki obviously got I believe 2 more kills this game. It killed Serena, and it killed Spectrier. It should have killed Vaporeon, but I went some roundabout way to preserve differential, so Rev got that kill instead. But obviously, it's nice to see Aleki doing its job, and then kind of a low tier 6-point Revavroom doing its job, coming to 4 games so far now out of the 7. And I believe I picked it up week 2. So it's come 4 out of 6 games so far. So that's pretty impressive for a 6-point mon, but you know, it has a lot of great utility and offensive pressure versus a lot of these teams, which is why I wanted to pick it up in the first place. But yeah, next week we take on Slick, and then the week after that we take on Orin Latios. But yeah, I believe Orin is fighting for a playoff spot, while Slick, I think, is fighting for relegation. So I expect either it's kind of some fight from them moving forward. I especially want to fight Orin for some personal reasons, obviously, but yeah. Hopefully next week we can come out with a dub versus Slick and just auto confirm ourselves in the playoffs and not have to rely on any like differential shenanigans. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. We are now 5-2. We took down the undefeated team, the only team that was undefeated, and we kind of close the gap a little bit and potentially trying to take the #1 seed going into the playoffs. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next week.